One woman, 3 husbands, and in many cases those husbands were brothers. To most of the world, that sounds shocking. Even today, many people assume this was a strange cultural tradition, or perhaps a sign that Tibetans viewed marriage differently from everyone else. But what if the real reason had nothing to do with romance? What if this unusual marriage system was actually a solution to a problem so serious that entire families depended on it to survive? To understand why some Tibetan women had multiple husbands, we first need to travel to one of the harshest environments on Earth. For centuries, life on the Tibetan Plateau was anything but easy. The air was thin, the winters were long, the growing season was short. Much of the land was unsuitable for farming. Every field mattered, every animal mattered, every resource mattered. Families survived through hard work and cooperation. A household wasn't just a place to live, it was an economic unit. Everyone had a role. Parents, children, grandparents, and siblings worked together to keep the family alive. But hidden beneath this way of life was a problem that became more dangerous with every generation. A problem that threatened the future of countless families. And it all started with inheritance. Imagine a father with 3 sons. He owns a small piece of farmland, a house, and a herd of yaks. When the sons become adults, each wants to start a family. But what happens next? The land must be divided. The animals must be divided. The family's wealth must be divided. At first, this may not seem like a problem, but after several generations, the land becomes smaller and smaller. Eventually, no one has enough to survive. A farm that once supported an entire family can no longer support anyone. This wasn't just an inconvenience, it was a threat to the family's future. And in a place where resources were already scarce, families needed a way to stop this from happening. What they came up with was one of the most unusual marriage systems in the world. Instead of dividing the family apart, some communities chose another path. The brothers stayed together. They remained in the same household, they worked the same land, they cared for the same livestock, and in some cases, they shared one wife. This practice is known as fraternal polyandry. Rather than creating 3 separate households, the family remained united as a single economic unit. Suddenly, the problem of inheritance changed completely. The farmland stayed intact, the animals stayed together, the workforce remained strong, the family's resources could support future generations. What sounds unusual to outsiders often made practical sense within the realities of Tibetan life. The goal wasn't to create an extraordinary marriage. The goal was to prevent the family from falling apart. At this point, many people ask the same question: what about love? Some assume that if a woman married multiple husbands, romance must not have mattered. But that's not true. Tibetan culture has a rich tradition of love songs, poetry, and stories about relationships. People fell in love. Young couples dreamed about marriage. families experienced the same emotions found everywhere else in the world. The difference was that in some traditional communities, marriage was often influenced by practical realities as well. In fact, throughout history, many societies arranged marriages based on land, inheritance, status, or economic security. Tibet was not unique in that respect. The unusual part was simply the solution that some communities adopted. So the story isn't about a society without romance, it's about a society finding a way to survive under difficult conditions.
To modern viewers, such a household might sound chaotic, but many families developed systems that allowed daily life to function smoothly. One brother might spend most of his time caring for livestock. Another might work the fields. A third might travel long distances to trade goods. Meanwhile, the wife often played a central role in managing the household. Children were raised within the larger family unit. The focus was usually on maintaining harmony and ensuring the success of the household as a whole. Of course, no family system is perfect. Challenges and conflicts could occur, just as they do in any society. But for many families, the benefits of preserving land and resources outweighed the difficulties.
Here's an important fact that is often overlooked. Not all Tibetans practiced polyandry. In fact, many never did. Marriage customs varied across regions, communities, and historical periods. Many Tibetan families followed monogamous marriage. Others followed different traditions. The idea that every Tibetan woman had multiple husbands is simply a myth. Polyandry existed in certain communities under specific circumstances. It was never the universal rule. Understanding this helps us move beyond stereotypes and appreciate the diversity of Tibetan society.
When most people first hear that some Tibetan women had multiple husbands, they focus on the marriage itself. But that's actually the least interesting part of the story. The real story is about survival. It's about families living in a harsh environment and finding ways to protect their land, their livelihood, and their future. What may seem unusual from the outside often becomes understandable when viewed through the lens of history. And perhaps that's the lesson hidden within this tradition. Sometimes the customs that surprise us the most are not created by beliefs alone. They are created by necessity. If you enjoyed this exploration of Tibetan culture and history, be sure to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Would you have guessed that the real reason behind this tradition was land and survival?